If your retirement income plan is going to be reliant upon income that you receive from your investment accounts, then sequence of return risk is the greatest risk you face in retirement. In this video, we're going to get into what sequence of return risk is, and we're going to go over 3 different strategies that you can use to help lessen that risk. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Financial Wellness Planning. My name is Derek Coffey, and I'm the founder of FWP. And when I build retirement income plans, specifically the income that we expect to receive from invested accounts, we rely upon the 4% rule. And the premise of the 4% rule is that you take your starting account balance when you retire, you withdraw 4% of that amount each year adjusted for inflation, and you have over a 90% probability of not running out of money over a 30-year time frame. Within the 4% rule, we are assuming that we receive a 7% average rate of return. The problem with the 4% rule is that it was built in a vacuum, meaning it doesn't reflect what actually happens in the real world. You're not going to receive 7% every single year. You're going to have up years, you're going to have down years, but the ultimate goal is that over the course of time, you average out to 7%. Sequence of return risk comes into play if you retire and immediately retire into a down market. If you retire and experience 2 or 3 years of losses, then the 4% rule may not be sustainable anymore. But what I want to show you is an example of how sequence of return risk can severely impact your retirement. And we're going to look at 2 time frames, 2000 to 2009, and then 2010 to 2019. And these are going to be very good examples of what a good sequence of return looks like, as opposed to a bad sequence of return. And what I want you to keep in mind as we work through this example is that we're talking about 2 consecutive decades. These aren't 50 years apart. These were 1 decade right after the other. In a lot of cases, the timing at which you retire plays an even bigger role than how much money you have saved for retirement. And if you would have retired at the end of 2009, meaning your retirement started in 2010, then you would have retired into one of the longest running bull markets in the history of the stock market. As you can see on your screen, the first year of your retirement, you would have received an almost 15% rate of return on your investments. And that's if you were 100% in the S&P 500. Now keep in mind, if you're retired and you're 100% in stocks, that's probably not the best idea. But to show you the significance of sequence of return risk, we're going to start out being 100% in stocks. So if you retire at the end of 2009 and you have $1 million in your investment account, then your first year of retirement, you picked up $150,000 in gains. Now we're going to take out the $40,000 because using the 4% rule, 4% times $1 million is $40,000. But using the 4% rule, you're still going to end the year with just over $1.1 million. And then over the course of the next 9 years of your retirement, you would have ended with $2.665 million in your account, and you would have only experienced 1 bad year. So retiring at the end of 2009 put you into a good sequence of return risk situation. But if you would have retired in 1999, then the first 10 years of your retirement is going to look a little bit different. We're still going to assume that you start with the same $1 million that we had in the first example. We're still going to assume that you take out 4% each year adjusted for inflation. But because of the market at the end of 10 years, this person's situation is much different. The very first year of their retirement, again, being 100% in stocks, they lost over 9% of their account value. And that's in addition to the 4% that they withdrew. So at the end of year 1, they're left with $869,000. In year 2, they're going to lose an additional 12% in the market, on top of the 4.12% that they're withdrawing as income. Remember, the 4% rule, 3% inflation is 4.12%. So the total losses in the second year of their retirement equaled out to just over 16%. To make matters worse, in the third year of their retirement, they lost over 22% of their invested account value. So at the end of year 3, in this example, they were left with $520,000. At the end of year 3, in the good example of sequence of return risk, they had over $1.2 million, taking out the same amount of income. At the end of those 10 years, the person that retired at the end of 1999 was left with $418,000 in their investment accounts. And that's a huge difference from the person that retired at the end of 2009, because after 10 years of retirement, they had almost $2.7 million in their account. So understanding how sequence of return risk works and ways that you can help avoid it impacting your retirement income plan is the whole purpose of this video. So the first thing that you can do to help soften the blow of sequence of return risk is to diversify your accounts. On the first page, we were going over sequence of return risk as if you were 100% invested in stocks. Obviously, if you're retiring, that's probably not the best of ideas, but when it comes to your investments, you need to speak with a licensed professional. This video is meant for educational and informational purposes only. Now, with diversification, there is a bad component to that, and that's if you were to retire into an up market, like at the end of 2009, then diversification would have actually held you back from having as much money as you possibly could. But hindsight's always 20/20. Had you retired at the end of 1999, you would have been much happier being diversified than not. So had you retired at the end of 1999 and diversified your investment accounts into a 60/40 portfolio, which is what we're working with, then you would have only lost 1% in the markets that year. Take out the 4% or the 40,000 and you're down less than 5% for the year. In the second year, you would have lost just under 4%, and then in the third year, you would have lost just under 10%. We add in the withdrawals, but the losses within those first 3 years are much less than what would have happened had you been 100% in stocks. And I actually totaled these losses up on the right-hand side of your screen. At the end of year 3, still taking out 4% adjusted for inflation and experiencing those market losses, you would have had almost $223,000 additional dollars in your account had you diversified. At the end of 10 years, you would have had almost $320,000 more in your account had you diversified. So the first step in softening that blow of sequence of return risk is to diversify your accounts. Now, this is the most simple strategy that you can use, but despite how simple it does work. The second strategy is to not only diversify your investment accounts, but also build up a cash cushion. And what I mean by cash cushion is that you have a year of your income needs set aside in cash. So instead of retiring into a down market and taking out your income need from your investment accounts, you turn to that cash cushion instead. So we're still going to look at the same time frame from 2000 to 2009, but what you're going to notice is that cash cushion is going to come in handy. So at the end of year 1, you're still going to lose just less than 1% with that 60/40 portfolio. But instead of pulling $40,000 out of your investment account as income, you pull it from the bank instead. What this does is it limits your losses only to what you experience in the market. You're not adding to it the additional $40,000. So at the end of year 1, you finish the year with $991,000 still in your account. Now in year 2, we're going to adjust your income for inflation to the $41,200, and we're going to withdraw that from the account. But what you'll notice is that your account reduction isn't as large. So you still lose the 3.84% for the year. You withdraw your $41,200 in income, but you still have over $900,000 in your account. And if we compare that to being 100% invested in the stock market, you still have $188,000 more than in year 2 of being 100% in stocks. In year 3, you're going to lose 10%. You're going to pull out your $42,436, but you're going to have over $750,000 left in your account. At the end of year 10, you're still going to have over $788,000 in your investment accounts, and that's $370,000 more than if you would have been 100% in stocks. So if you have the means within those last 10 years of your retirement to build up a stockpile of cash, then you should do so. That pile of cash is going to help you if you retire into a down market. And you could keep that cash sitting to the side for the just in case. You could retire and experience 1 or 2 years of decent returns. But in that third year, you may see a significant drop. Well, instead of pulling that money out of your investment accounts, you can put a pause on that and pull it from your cash instead. The third strategy that you could use is to use an income annuity. And the way income annuities work is you take a portion of your assets and turn it over to the insurance company. The insurance company is now on the hook for providing you your income. When I worked with clients, this is what we would do. We would take a third of their invested account balance and hand it to the insurance company to provide them their income. But you have to keep in mind, I was doing this from the end of 2022 to the end of 2023. And during that period, income annuities had really good payout rates. It's not always going to be like that, so you do need to look into it. But if it fits your plan, this could do wonders in buffering you from that sequence of return risk. So we're still going to use the same example of the $1 million client who's retiring. But instead of having all $1 million of their money at risk in the market, we're going to take a third of that and hand it to the insurance company. In year one, they're still going to experience that 1% loss, but because we don't have to worry about taking out $40,000, their account has $664,000 in it. And this is going to happen over the next 2 years. In year two, they're going to lose 4%. In year three, they're going to lose 10%. But we're not taking out of the account the money that's being paid to them by the insurance company. At the end of year 10, by taking out 1/3 of their investment account and giving it to the insurance company, they're going to have $850,000 left in their account. It's much better than just diversifying the account. It's much better than just diversifying and having the cash cushion. Having that $850,000 left at the end of 10 years is going to make you feel a little bit more at ease. And that's where the income annuity can help. Now, if we compare this to being 100% in stocks, meaning you did nothing to save yourself from sequence of return risk, you would have an additional $433,000 in your account. This is going to make you feel a little bit more comfortable with your retirement. And it also would set you up, at least in this case, to roll into 2010 and watch your accounts balloon. Now, I know I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to the person that retired in 2010 through 2019. And the reason that is that any of the things that I suggested for that time frame would have resulted in less money. Some of this stuff is common sense, some of it is not. Some of it is very simple to do, even though you may not have thought about it. But doing something is better than doing nothing. Understanding sequence of return risk and factoring that in to your retirement income plan could save you a significant amount of money and, in turn, a lot of heartache. So although you can't really pick when you retire or be able to push it off for 10 years as we did with these two examples, there are things that you can put in place to protect yourself from sequence of return risk. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. If this video or any of the other videos that I've put out has provided you value, then hit that subscribe button. If you know someone that's getting close to retirement and they're not taking into account what could happen if they retire and the markets go down, then send this video to them. Maybe it'll help them out. But I thank you again for tuning in. I'll talk to you soon.